Give me a countdown. Okay, we are live. I just want to say, first of all, welcome to everybody that's joining us today on this call. I have a phenomenally inspirational person on the other end of this call called Tim Drummond. I've been following him quietly for some time, but I only really reached out to him about a week and a half ago. He posted something in a private Facebook group that we're both members of, and it really inspired me. So I reached out to him, we've had a conversation, and I'm very fortunate to have him on the other end of the line today. And we're going to be really delving deep into some really cool stuff that's going to help you completely transform the results that you're getting as well. So without further ado, I just want to say hello, Tim.
Hello, mate. And yeah, cheers for the cool intro.
It's all right, mate, not a problem. So what I want to do, I don't want to be this kind of person that says, let's talk about you for 20 minutes at the start and bore people. I just want to get people getting the most out of this. So what we're going to talk about, first of all, is the main problem you see out there at the moment. We'll come on to, by the way, people, we'll come on to who Tim is and what he does in a second, but I just want Tim to highlight the main problem that he sees at the moment.
And sure, like, I mean, I guess we're talking about, like, you know, that you know, maybe 30-year-old guy, that guy who's got a family, that guy who's got a business, you know, has lots of things that are going on. They're not necessarily the 20-year-old anymore. You know, they can't be in the gym or, you know, twice a day, and they've got all this stuff going on. And so when you look at that type of person, you understand that the problems that they're facing are very different from what they were 10 years ago. And I relate to that, and I know we've talked about it, and I know you relate to it. Okay, I don't have kids, but I'm running a business. I've got a lot of stuff going on. I'm just bought myself a house. So for me, it's like, well, how do I get the biggest bang for my buck? How do I actually get somewhere? So if we're talking about, for instance, fitness and getting in good shape, some of the problems are that, for starters, there's so much information out there, which for me is slightly tainted, and it's tainted because it's there to sell stuff, right? So we understand that we can all sit there and see Jake Gyllenhaal before and after transformation, right? And I'm a transformation coach, so I love transformation. I love to see what people have done, but we've also got to sit back and say, well, you know, where are the smoke and mirrors in this stuff? Like, really, you know, when we see some of those before and after, and listen, I use before and afters again, but what I'm aware of is that, you know, what do people have their expectations? So let me give you an example. I worked with an actress, quite a big Hollywood actress. She's told me what she used to go through to get ready for a film. That's not normal. Like, not normal people wouldn't do that. And certainly the guys we're talking to, they couldn't do that. They're not Gwyneth Paltrow. They can't train and be in the gym 3 hours a day and have a private chef and stuff like that. So, you know, we have to understand what is right for us and a length of time. So for me, you know, that transformation around, oh, what can we do in 21 days? We understand why that's put out there. We understand why when we read Men's Health, it says how to get abs in 14 days. But we also understand that that's just bullshit, right? That it's not the reality of the situation. So you might say, well, you know, for instance, use a nice introduction. You know, what I managed to do with my own transformation. Yeah, that was cool, and you know, I did make some good progression. Don't get me wrong, but it didn't happen in 2 weeks, and it's never going to happen in 2 weeks. And if we go into this thing thinking that we're going to achieve these great things, and it's going to take 2 weeks, and when it doesn't take 2 weeks, or 3 weeks, or 4 weeks even, and we either give up, or we get disheartened, or we have too much of an expectation on ourselves. And again, that's driven by you know, by media, by, you know, in the end, a lot of the fitness magazines, I think they do some great stuff, but they're there to sell advertising. So that's really what they do. So, you know, supplement companies want to tell you shit about taking their stuff and it's going to get you there in 2 weeks. And really, the magazine guys, they perpetuate that because it's basically what their business is about. They don't necessarily make money from you buying the copies. So I think that's sort of some of the problems of what people's expectations are. And then we can look at, like, well, where are these guys? Where is the individual? You know, for me, I'm fortunate. I can train twice a day if I want. And we talked about this before. But lots of people can't. And actually, the problem is often some of the stuff they do isn't the right stuff to do. You know, they do some of this short-term stuff. They don't get anywhere and they give up. And that, for me, causes overwhelm. You know, and I sort of see that up and down. And listen, this could be sort of looked at as it's quite a feminine thing. Like, you know, I work with brides, one of my niches, and I can tell you when I speak to those, they have these up and downs, which are pretty crazy, right? But as guys, we also have that. We still have the same brains. We still have the same mentality. So we still need to understand that we do go out and have, especially if we've got high expectations of ourselves as driven guys, as, you know, that type A sort of personality, like we're just quite impatient, which is cool. But we also need to know that, you know, what can we get the biggest bang for our buck? What can we do in 45 minutes in the gym? And so that's what I'm seeing out there. I don't know. Would you agree, Matt?
Oh yeah, 100%. Having been in the industry for about 5 or 6 years, people's reality usually is never anywhere near their expectation. Everybody wants that, like you said, the 6-pack in 4 weeks, but how many people realistically actually do that? So, and then once you've worked with people for a longer time, I actually have clients say, wow, I didn't actually realize, now I might be shooting myself in the foot here, but people actually say, I didn't realize it would take this long. But the good thing about that is I'm yet to have a client. I think I've maybe had one client revert back to how she was before. But that's one out of a lot of people that have reverted back because we do the deep mindset work rather than just working on a quick fix. Now, there was a study somewhere about people that went on diets or went to diet clubs, and I can't remember the exact figures, but it's something like 70% of people that go on a diet are 2 stone heavier, I think 4 or 5 years later. I can't remember the exact same things. And I use that every time I talk to somebody. I say, hey, if you had 2 doors that you can walk through, one got you coming out 5 years later, you looked and felt awesome, or the other one, you came out 2 stone heavier, which one would you go with? And of course, everyone chooses door number 1. So really, we want that long lasting change, but we're kind of sold the short term solution, right?
No, I agree, and you know, I'd probably concur with those numbers. I'd probably be a bit more aggressive with them, actually. Like, you know, we all want to have a bet. I don't know anything about horse racing, right? Nothing at all, and I'll bet probably once a year, and it'll probably be on the Grand National. And when I was a bit younger, I'd probably just put like, it would be having fun. Like, I'm not doing it because I actually think I'm going to get anywhere. So I'll be like, right, what can I, and I'll probably pick a 50-1 outsider, or maybe I'd go 100-1 outsider. Now, you know, the question could be, do I sit there and think I'm going to put my house on this? No, of course I fucking don't. What I'm thinking is, it's a bit of fun. I don't actually ever expect that it's going to get anywhere. I know I'm really going to lose, but hey, it's cool. It's £5, you know. And that's my question to people. I'm like, well, you know, if I told you that 1 out of 100 people will lose weight and have it kept it off of a diet for 12 months, and that's a more traditional approach to a diet, so whether it's a diet club or whether it's whatever crazy fad thing that there is at the moment, you know, do you want to take those odds? Would you put your house on that 100-1 outsider? Of course, they're going to be like, no, and like, but you're willing to put your body on that as well, and they're like, yeah. Okay, I get that. And people do get that. So we relate it to something that they understand and know about. So, you know, for me, it's not that we don't want to get quick results. Of course we do. So if we take this from a mindset approach, our brain has to see some progression. One of the problems is, for instance, is that people, they have no way of tracking progression. And this is, you know, listen, I was there. You know, when I left university, I was a trader. I went into the city, you know, I was working the long hours, I was doing all this stuff. I had this high pressure job. I thought I knew about exercise because I read a lot at the time. I read Men's Health, but then I also read the books that actually told me this stuff. And yet I now realize that I just didn't really know anything. And at the time I didn't, you know, did I have some goals? Sort of, you know, I wanted to be bigger. And this is what I hear when I speak to people. Tell me what you want to do. You know, I want to tone up. I want to lose some weight. I want to put. We need to be specific. We need to be very specific. Exactly what do you want to achieve? And then we need to be very specific with how we track that. So week 1, what are the differences? You know, first of all, for me, it's always about inputs. So what are the differences in the process? So first week, really, most of my clients that come to me, they wouldn't be coming to me, and they certainly wouldn't be investing the, you know, what my fees are if they didn't really want shit to change. So they come to me, and basically the assumption is, would you accept the place that you're in is not great? And they'll be like, yeah, cool. So what we need to understand is we need to make some changes quickly, but smart changes that are easy for you to employ. We might choose 2 or 3 week 1. Now that is the track for the first week. It's like the feedback at the end of the week is, did you do that? Yes. Cool. Start to convince our brains that we can do this. And then maybe week 2, we look at what else can we do? So in those weeks, we are seeing progression. We are literally seeing the pounds coming off, but it's not the biggest focus at the beginning. So I call it being unattached to the outcome. So one of my clients was a model, and this is the way she talked about it. She would go into a casting. She wanted the job. She really wanted the jobs. But if someone turned around to her and basically said, nah, you can't have it because you're a bit plump. This girl was size 8, by the way, or you're not tall enough, and they did used to say this, by the way, it was pretty aggressive, the things that they used to say. She would walk out at the end, but she would be okay still. She's not, the be all and end all of that is not what does it say. And I like that analogy because I think it makes sense in the first 2 weeks. Because again, you know, Men's Health is telling us like in 2 weeks we can have abs. No, you can't. Okay, you can't. You could do some stuff which is crazy, and you might have the smoke and mirrors that you could do something in that time, but you know, we know we can't. And so again, that idea is after work week 1, after week 2, we need to know, our brains need to know that we're seeing some changes, and then we start looking a bit more about what the actual outcomes are. So for me, you know, week 3, we are seeing some numbers change, and that we need to see. So we, you know, you don't want to get to, you know, my transformations is 12 weeks. We don't want to get to week 6 and nothing's changed, because of course, why would someone go through, and this is what they say to me, why would I go for that, what feels hard when I'm not getting anything back? So what they do start to do is they are willing to do stuff which maybe they didn't think that they would do before when they start seeing changes. So we have to, as transformation coaches, we have to accept that we are there to get results quickly. Again, that's why people come to people who have this type of knowledge, because they don't have it themselves, and that's just the reality. But we do need to understand that we do it in the right way. We do it that actually lasts for the long term. It's not something stupid that doesn't work, and then, you know, the term, oh, as soon as I go back to normal, then everything goes back to where it was.
Yeah, totally agree. I couldn't agree more. And you've raised some very, very good points there. And for me, the most painful thing, as I like to call myself an ethical trainer, an ethical coach, where I won't give people quick fixes or an instant diet or anything. Okay, if somebody's desperate to lose the weight, let's say if it's a female, she's got a wedding coming up and this is the last ditch attempt, we might play around with carbs and water and things like that. But the most painful thing for me is people are, got to be careful the way I say it, but getting brainwashed with the media, with what the media are putting out there, and this instant gratification thing. But it's also, I think, with the habits that we're engaging in daily life, everything is now instant, isn't it? Like everything's instant. Like before, an interview like this would be pre-recorded, then it'd be edited, and it'd be played around with and put up. But this is actually going out like live on YouTube. This is the world that we live in. So if you've got any kind of mindset tips that you use personally or with your clients that can help people get away maybe from this, I want results and I want results now and I'll do whatever it takes to, and I don't care about the long term, to shifting it to, I know it's almost like the tortoise and the hare, where slow and steady does really win the race, with getting, obviously you just say you can get quick results, but long lasting. But can people make that change in their mindset with something to go from I want results now to I'm okay to be patient, and it's a lifestyle change rather than a quick fix?
Yeah, and I get that. Like, you know, one of my niches is working with brides, and they're a certain situation. You know, I won't take someone on if it's too near towards their wedding day, because I'm not going to sit there and perpetuate the idea that they can do something in 4 weeks. Okay, because they can, but that's not what I'm doing. That's not what I'm there for. Like, my transformations are usually a couple of dress sizes. That's not going to take 4 weeks unless you do something crazy, and I'm not part of that. So when we look at another sort of people that I work with fitness professionals. I help them build their business, right? And these guys are the successful ones in the industry. They are driven. They're at that sort of, 4 or 5K mark, which is but they want to get to that 10K mark. And what we have to understand about that type of client is that they are driven. They are type A. They do want to get somewhere quickly, right? One of my mentors, he told me this once, and I thought it was really, really cool the way he said it. He's like, we have patiently impatient people and impatiently patient people. And the patiently impatient is, let's say it's October, right? Maybe November, and you decide that you want to get in shape. And instead of just going and doing it there and then, you're like, nah, it's November, December's soon. There's no point in starting now because December, and then I'm going to start in January. Cool. And listen, that's not a judgment, by the way. It's just, I understand, and it's the way our brains work. And I've been there with lots of things in my life. So I do understand that situation. And they're happy to be patient, right? I'm going to be patiently impatient. And then January comes, January the 1st. Fuck me, why aren't I getting anywhere? It's 2 weeks. I've just done what they've told me in Men's Health. Why aren't I shredded like fucking Jake Gyllenhaal on his trans? And you're like, listen, this shit takes time. If it didn't, everyone would be there. If it didn't, everyone would have a six pack. If it didn't, everyone would be happy. Everyone would have a great relationship. Everyone would be wealthy. Like, we can't expect things that are great to happen overnight. From personal experience, things feel good and make you happy when you've gone through certain things to make that happen. So my transformation, when I remember, like, I had this aim, and we'll talk about it later, and how I really created the mindset. My whole idea was that I was going to go to Ibiza because I love Ibiza, and basically just chill out. And I had this story in my mind that I was going to wake up. It was my 37th birthday. I was going to have coffee and do my last day of 100 days of cardio in the morning, and just really enjoy the moment. And I got there and arrived there, and it was better than I ever could imagine, the results I got. And I remember thinking to myself, like, it's cool that I look good and I look buff, but actually what I really felt like is I'd done some good shit. Like, that made so much difference. Like, for the first time ever, really-ish, like, things were different when I was hanging around a lot of, probably more with the guys than actually with the girls in the end. But, like, I knew there was a difference with the way I looked than there was in the years before. And that's cool. Don't get me wrong. It was fun. And if I was single, certainly with the females, if I was single, I probably would have been making more of an effort to get that attraction. But actually, like, a big part of it is what I had gone through, the person I'd become. And so if we look at how do we do that? How do we become that impatiently patient person? And they're the person that goes, I want something to happen because I'm not happy with my situation. And that's what my clients are like when they come to me. And again, I know they're like that when they want to work with me, because otherwise they wouldn't be doing it, because there's an investment, which is cool. And they are impatient to start. They're like, let's do this. Let's get it done. We get it done on the phone. We agree to it. We're gonna make it happen. When can we start? They say. I'm like, when do you want to start? Tomorrow. Let's do it. Then they need to understand, though, that this shit doesn't happen straight away. Like, yes, we're going to aim. We've got 12 weeks. We are going to transform what you look like. You are going to feel great. But it's not going to happen in 2 weeks. So we become those people, those impatiently patient people. And I would ask anyone, like, which one would you want to be? Like, that's my question. It's like, well, which one? Because you have to be, one or the other. Which one do you want to be? And it's your choice. Which one do you think is going to make you successful? Which one do you think is going to be the one that gets you somewhere? And then we'll leave it at that. And I think that's a good place to start around that, how we understand the mindset that we need to create to get good shit happening. After my transformation, it changed a lot of other things in my beliefs, in the way that I felt about what I could achieve, and way away from just the way I looked. And I just used that same thing. I was like, right, like, I was a bit pissed. I wasn't, I was on sort of decent money, but perhaps maybe one of the things I didn't do is, there's a difference between being wealthy and being good at spending money. And I was good at spending money, right? And I realized I needed to change that stuff. So basically just did what I had done in my transformation, and I was mindful, and I created a system, and I was like, right, what did I do? How did I do this bit? How did I make that happen? And I just basically repeated it. And that's taken me, say, the last year. And my aim all along was I didn't want to be in personal debt, which I was. I didn't want to be in, I wanted my own house. I live in London. Not easy. So I just basically copied what I'd just done in my transformation. And it allowed me to be that impatient, patient person. So how do I go about getting what I wanted? How do I go about creating that, in my situation, become better at business, become better at all these things, so I can have that income to then go and have something in, and I was 12 months, don't get me wrong, that I feel quite good that I've done it in 12 months. But at the time I was fucking impatient, excuse my language. I was really impatient. I wanted it there and then, but that's cool. Like, I like that about myself, and I like that about my clients. They are driven and they do want shit to happen. But let's not kid yourselves. If you want to go from somewhere like that to somewhere great, it's not going to take 2 months, and no one would expect it to either, I think.
Oh, I totally agree. And people might have saw me looking down. I got my phone down here, just making notes as we go through, and I'd literally just put down in there, impatiently patient. I absolutely love that one. And if you don't mind, I'm going to steal that and use it with my guys and girls.
Please do.
I think it's fantastic. Impatiently patient. So wanting to take action and taking action, but understanding that, use the old saying, Rome wasn't built in a day, which I think is a good analogy, a good saying that people need to completely understand. And I think people do understand. People aren't stupid, but I think, myself included, we're easily influenced by things like the media and lifestyle and habits and things. So a thing you kind of touched on there was habits. It sounds like you really had some great habits and mindset shifts regarding your personal transformation with your body that has kind of filtered through into the rest of your life. And I definitely found that as well. People that may have read my story about what I went through November, December, January, probably the lowest point in my life, to where I am now. I started with I started with the mind. I didn't even start with the body. I started working in here first, and then that filtered through to my body. And before you know it, every area of the life, it almost like you're putting fertilizer down on the whole garden, rather than just one like little flower in the corner. It spreads, just this habit and this mindset shift. So on that note, what I'd really like to come on to is you've shared some really great information. Obviously people know that you know what you're talking about, and you've worked with some big names as well. I was checking out, what's your website called? I'm trying to pronounce the name right. I don't want to.
It's a retail. It doesn't mean stop. It means that it's a retail. It's a Greek term, and it's about potential. It's about, and again, it's a female business, so it's about female potential tied up in strength, in physical positivity, but also how that translates into feeling and being the best person you can be. It doesn't mean the French with the little things wherever they would be, which means stop, which probably isn't what I'm suggesting people do. But yeah. So you've worked with some, you kind of know what you're talking about, or you sound like you know what you're talking about. But just for people who are still kind of going, who is this guy? He's talking about his transformation. What did he actually do? Can you share kind of where you came from before this transformation, what was going on, and then maybe some of you spoke a little bit about it, but some of the mindset shifts and the habits you've had to change to now become who you are, where you are? Is it okay to share some of that? Yeah, of course it is. So, if we want to do that type of transformation, listen, and I think actually my situation was it's really relevant, because I've been in the fitness industry, in the coaching industry for 6-7 years now. I think 7 years. When I got into it, listen, I was proper skinny fat when I was younger. If people don't know what that is, it's a sort of industry term for someone who's got skinny arms, skinny legs, and a big fat body. And that's a lot of people, right? And I got into fitness, and I was, and I understood training, and I understood shit, right? And I got somewhere, but I never got where I really felt like I'd love to get. And I wrote a book about this stuff. I understand, like, you know, I have transformed lots of people's bodies, and yet still there was just this. Now looking back on it, I guess it's probably lack of belief that I could do it. And I came up with all these bullshit excuses in my head. And it was always like, oh, you know, I was a vegetarian for 23 years for some stupid reason. Oh, that's going to have wrecked me. You know, I had a couple of hormone tests done and they weren't quite where they should be. And my cortisol was a little bit. And I was like, oh, that's the reason why. And I got loads of stuff tested on my stomach and my gut health. And there was a couple of things that the markers were saying, but like, oh, that's the reason. And I got a bit anal about it sometimes. And I'd start to eat. I would be really anal about what I ate. And I always thought that was the solution. And so then, you know, as I say, I wrote a book. I started studying this. I really understood it. Yet I was still not where I wanted to be. And I don't know, something had to change because, you know, if we understand that I was in a situation where I know how to do it, but for some reason I wasn't doing it. And that's the thing. A lot of people know some of the how, maybe not to my level, of course, but they know some of the how. But the thing is, they don't go and do it. And that's what we've got to understand. Well, why don't we? So for me, I'm sitting back and I'm like, one of the reasons why I did it is because I started to get a bit freaked out by the fact that I was going to be 40 soon. And I'm just like, if I don't do it now, I'm never going to do it. If I leave it longer, I'm never going to be able to do it. Like if I get to 40, you know, am I, and again, maybe I could, but you know, that was what was in my head at the time. I was like, I need to do this. I want to do it. And I think I just started one day and I decided, going back to what I said at the beginning, this is why I do this with my clients, or I've done it always. I decided that I was going to unattach myself to the outcome. And that was a big part of it. And I didn't call it that at that point. I just knew I'm just going to do what I know I can do. I created my program and I said to myself, all I want out of the next 3 weeks, 4 weeks is to follow this program. And I don't care what the results are. I don't care what the outcome is. And I think maybe that I wouldn't say took the pressure off, but I knew that what I wanted to get out of this was to become that person. So I created the program. I followed it. You know, it was for me, it was reasonably staggered. So I used what I know. Week 1, I worked on this part. Week 2, I worked on that part. And basically, I actually started seeing, I tried some new stuff as well. So that must be said. I tried some stuff which in the past, I think I didn't used to think was important. Specifically, and it sounds crazy, I know now, calories. So, you know, PT 101, you come through it and they start telling you that calories don't really matter. The thing that matters is where they come from. And you go through this whole sort of paleo ideal, you go through this whole sort of, you know, and we just find all the information that we believe backs up what we say. We have a confirmation bias. And I was in that place. Now what I realize is for most people, where they are, calories aren't the most important thing because they eat so much crap. But for when you're at a place where you do want to get super lean, they 100% matter. And anyone who tells you they don't is dumb, right? Of course they need to come from the right place. You can't just have 100, you know, 2,000 calories of sugar and think anything's going to happen. No, but you need to understand this. So I basically just started following some macros, which again, now sitting here sounds stupid that I hadn't before, but it was just never where I was. And I followed it and I started feeling good about the fact that I was structured. I did a lot of the stuff that I've learned from working with my clients and helping them with. I just sort of followed my own guidance. And the big breakthrough for me was, I think, about week 3. And I think this is the first time it's ever happened in my life. And it was, in fact. It was like, so I would say a belief is something that you would argue with a friend to defend. So I would argue with you. I would have argued with you at the time. If you had said, no, you can get sub 6 or 7, I'd have been like, no, I can't. And I told you all the reasons why I couldn't. The crazy vegetarianness, all that crap. Right. That's the belief, right? That's really what I hold. And when we have a change in belief, when we turn around and we have that thing in our mind, that self-talk, and it says, no, you can do this. Or even better, for me, it was like, you are going to do this. And I just had that thing, and it's hard to explain, but it's the first time it ever happened in my life where I realized all the stuff I've read about changing beliefs, you can do it because I told myself. And almost from that day on, like, I just knew I was going to work, and I had nothing was holding me back. And I was like, okay, right. And it was almost like a weight off my shoulders. And I see this with my clients all the time, by the way. And I tell them about it. I'm like, you'll come to me soon and you'll see that and you'll have that. And I know you don't believe that at the moment, but just wait. And then they think it's like the funniest, best thing ever. Like one of my clients, she's like, oh my God, you're going to love it. And then they tell me and I'm like, cool, there you go. And so if you can do it once, then I think that you can accept that you can do it again. So the big breakthrough for me was that part of it. And then I started putting like my model together of just what I understand. You know, a big part of it is you have to know exactly where you want to get to. More importantly than that, you need to know why you want to get there. Like, what does it really matter to you? Why did I really want to be lean? And I started asking me these questions, like, why did I? And I came to the conclusion that I wanted to be the best coach I could be. I really did. I wanted to, I'm fascinated by knowledge, and I've always been fascinated by knowledge. And I wanted to sort of test it on myself. And I wanted to see, could I do this myself? What is the outcome? But I need structure. And that was big for me. It's like, I'm going to do exactly what I write down, and then I'm going to see what happens. And it was like a sort of self-experiment, both in up here and physically. And I'd have all these narratives that I started creating in my head. Like at first I'd go into the gym and I'd have like routines. And this again is the stuff I do with my clients. I'd have a routine and I'd be very mindful while I was training. So my mind wouldn't be drifting to what my business problem was later, or what am I going to do for my client, or what am I going to have for dinner. And I just created that quite meditative place where all I was doing was in the moment. I was in the gym. And I'd have this little story that I'd tell myself before my sessions. And I know this sounds a bit sort of, sounds a bit strange sometimes, right? But if you look at, say, for instance, I remember Linford Christie, or now Usain Bolt, and okay, they had very different ways of doing it. You watch what they do before they go on 100 meters. They're doing stuff in their head. Usain Bolt's dancing around, but something's going on up here. Linford Christie was just like that. There was a thing that was going on in his head. When people who are good presenters, when people who are good at sales, they have a preparation that they do before they go and do their thing. So for me, it was about creating that big picture, that big why of I wanted to do this, and then bringing that into everything that I did. So one of the first things was almost like I'd say to myself, what would I be doing if my client was standing next to me? And that on its own was good. That was good, because I was like if I got to the end of reps and I'd been a pussy in that set, I'd be like, that's not good enough. I can't do that. If my client was standing there, I'd feel embarrassed. And you can imagine, I do train with clients, or I did train with clients sometimes. Like, if you do it, do you think your sessions are going to be good or bad? Let's be clear, like, they're the best sessions you ever had. But I'm not going to have my client there every time I train. So in my head, I just created that thing, and I'd find those extra reps. And if I didn't get the reps out in that set, I'd be calling myself out. And at the end of the session, if I hadn't put 100% in, I'd be like, that's not good enough. If I was with a client, what are they going to think of me? And then I just started building more of these stories and pictures and narratives in my mind. And I think where it really came to the best place was, we've talked about, like, if you do this in one area of your life, like, what does it give you the belief that you can do something else? One of the things I've always wanted to do is design my own house. And I remember when I was young, I went to my friends. I came from quite a poor background, I guess you could call it. Like, it was cool because my mum it was all about education. Like, we never had a choice. Like, we were going to go to university. There was never a maybe we would wait, maybe we wouldn't. And so, but we didn't have particularly much money. And a lot of my friends, when I grew up a little bit, went to some of the best public schools in Cambridge. And one of them, I remember going to his house, and he was like, yeah, my dad designed this house and built it. And I was just like, I was blown away. And this was by the river, and it was just amazing. And I always thought I'd love to do it. But I never had that belief. I never really had it in me that I felt I could. I've always been a bit like, I've always thought I'll be successful, but I didn't really believe it. And so I started thinking to myself, like, well, if I've just done this thing that I didn't believe I could do, like, maybe I could do it again. And so then I created this narrative in my mind to a point where if I didn't pull my reps out, and I know this is going to sound strange again, but that's just where I was. It was like, this is the difference between me building my house or not building my house. And if I fail in just getting my body in the shape that I want and my mindset where I want it to be, how have I ever got a chance of doing that? And it would be literally every session. I'd just be like, when I finish those sessions, and I can tell you from personal experience, the difference between doing my training sessions when I did that to when I hadn't before was transformational. And I'd get to the end of the sessions and I'd feel pretty much all the time that I'd done everything that I could in that session. And I'd walk away and I'd feel good about it. And, you know, for me, you know, bringing it back to where we started, it's like, well, where do you get that consistency from? Where do you get that focus from? You don't get it from just bowling in the gym and thinking, I want to lose weight, or you know, that's it. And that's what you see. So remember when we first started in the gym, you'd go up to people and you'd chat to them and they'd be like, what are you doing in the gym? What are your aims? Oh, I want to lose weight, right? And you remember that, right? And I'd be like, okay, that don't mean shit. Like, you know, oh, I want to get fitter. No, you don't. Like, what do you really want? Now, I didn't know how to have that conversation with those people then, but now I do, and I understand, and I get my clients to it. And, you know, there's something called axiology, and it's the study of values. I want to know what my clients' values are. I want to know what's going to make them do those reps in the gym. And I'm not there, by the way, till they can't do any more. So if we get to the point where basically they're doing it because they want to create the right life for their son who's 2, for instance. Like, I'm having conversations with them about what it means to you if you walk out after that session and you don't feel you've given everything. Like, what would you be thinking if your son was sitting there? And this starts to change shit. And so we create that motivation, and that's what we have to understand. If we want to achieve something, it all starts up here. It physically, it can't start, because we're never going to get to that place. Linford Christie, bringing it back to him, how the hell did he get there? Like, I saw a video once on YouTube, and Pete, you should definitely check this out. It's Steve Redgrave and a couple of the other rowing dudes, and it's one of their training sessions, and I've never seen anything like it. It's just, and I've seen, you know, professional sportsmen train and everything, but just the intensity of it, it was just, I'd never seen any. I was just blown away. And I sat there and I was like, how the hell do they do that? How do they get to that place? And then you start getting those layers, and you could say, well, they're sportsmen, you know, yeah. They want to win an Olympic gold, yeah, they do. But why do they want to win an Olympic gold? Like, why do they want to? There's something innate in that person that's driving them to be, whatever it is to be like that. And a lot of us don't have that, but a lot of us have never even tried to create it. So we can try and have those steps where we do create this mindset where, like, I wasn't going to stop training. I wasn't going to literally stop before, you know, until my arms are falling off. Like, and that was what I took into the gym all the time. So I think if you're looking at if you haven't got results in the past, or you haven't got what you want out of this, you might understand that that's why you need to start there. And you can't just bowl into the gym with, oh, I want to lose weight, I want to be buff. Everyone wants to lose weight, everyone wants to be buff, but most people don't end up doing it, right?
Oh yeah, I totally agree. And my biggest take home from that and everything that you've just said is it's all about intrinsic motivation rather than external motivation or extrinsic. And the amount of times, again, you've probably had this yourself, oh, I need someone to motivate me, I need someone to push me, I need someone to help me keep on the right track, or whatever it is. But when it comes down to it, the only person that can ever do that long term is yourself. And like you said, you mentioned some Olympic athletes there. They've just got some really deep rooted motivation to get them to do what they do. I think in Steve's book, I haven't actually read it, but one of my clients was telling me he was on, again, another training day with his team. And this is Steve Redgrave, by the way, and he was cycling up a hill. And he's diabetic. I think he's like type 1. I think he's type 1 diabetic or type 2 diabetic. But apparently he was cycling up a hill with one of the Tour de France teams. He got halfway up, and there's a van following them with everything in there. And he got halfway up, and apparently he collapsed. He was pushing that hard. He collapsed and passed out. And they said, no, your blood sugars are almost non-existent. We've got to get you back down into the hospital. You can't carry on. He's like, I'm getting to the top. I am not getting in that van. I'm getting on my bike and I'm getting to the top. And that's kind of it wasn't that someone else was motivating him, or he had just an external motivation to get to the top. He had that deep rooted why. And like yourself, you wanted to be the best coach that you could be, and that was your deep rooted why. And for me, that's where my transformation came from. It wasn't just that I wanted the six pack or I wanted to have more confidence. It was, if I want to help people, I've got to be almost the person, that role model, and I'm going to lose out on helping people if I'm not in the best shape of my life. And if I'm not mentally in the best shape of my life and emotionally in the best shape of my life, I can't support my family and help my family through tough times if we have them, if I'm completely out of shape. So I think, yeah, the take home from that is people have got to find their deep rooted why, rather than just this superficial, I want to lose weight to maybe drop a clothes size or something. So yeah, really, really great message. And what I'm going to ask, I think we kind of covered this next question, but what's the one thing somebody could do, like right now, after watching this? If they're sat there right now, they're not in the shape that they want to be, they know they've got to make the change, but they're not really sure how or where to start or what to do. What do you think would be the one main thing that you would have somebody go away and do, so to make sure that they've laid the correct foundations so that they can finally achieve what they want to achieve without falling off the wagon again?
Sure. And honestly, the one thing that I would suggest people do is that they get help. And listen, this isn't a pitch, by the way. Like, I'm just being honest, right? From my experience, if we've struggled with this for 5, 10, 15 years, we could ask, is someone like Einstein a clever guy, right? Do we trust the shit that he says? And probably yes, right? And then, you know, when he says things like, if we think doing the same thing over and over and again and expecting a different outcome, and it's the definition of insanity. So what we've got to accept, that if it hasn't worked for some reason for the last 10 years, like, sure, maybe things will change, maybe, but maybe you'll get impatient, you know, of the outcomes. So it's a bit like my mate Dave, who's a dentist, right? And you could go and see him, right? And he's a top Harley Street dentist, right? And you go in to see him, he's going to get your tooth out in 15 minutes, right? He's going to get in there, he's going to give you that anesthetic, he's going to whip it out, and you're out, and it's 15 minutes. Or you could go to someone else, like my other mate, right? My other mate's got a drill and a chair, okay? You know, he'll probably give it a go. I'm sure he might get the same outcome, but he might wreck you though as well. So let's just hope. Let's say he does get the same outcome. You know, he gets your tooth out, but it takes him 8 hours. You don't have any anesthetic. It's fucking painful, and you're probably going to give up. Probably after about 10 minutes of him yanking with his bar. And so genuinely, like, that's my thoughts, is ask for help. I do all the time. I did every time I've ever achieved anything. I do now. I have mentors. I have people that have been where I am, understand me, understand the problems that I face. We were talking before. One of the things at the moment that's going on with me is that because things are going good and well, and I've made some strong decisions, like I don't have clients in person anymore, and so a lot of all of my stuff is done, you know, online Skype coaching, and so I know that I started at some point. We all want freedom, right? We all want freedom. We all want to be, but we also innately need to have security as well. So, you know, I started feeling a little bit like, a bit freaked out because I've got all this time on my hands, right? And so, again, it sounds like it's divvy, and unless you're in that situation, you probably wouldn't go, oh yeah, that sounds terrible, right? I just go to my coach. I'm like, look, this is some of the shit that's going on. And he goes, well, look, I know what you're thinking. I know how you're feeling. This has happened to me. This is what I did. Why don't you go and do that? Go and do it. Like, maybe we'll make a difference on our own. Maybe we will. Some people do. If you look at most people who are successful, do you think Bill Gates has a coach? Like, do you think that Richard Branson has a coach? Do you think Richard Branson's got 10 coaches? Probably. Do we feel that one of the reasons why we're not going to do this is because it's going to cost us too much money? Well, do you think Richard Branson, when he says and is asked, what's the number one thing that you would do to become more effective and efficient at work? And he says, go and work out before you go to work. Do half an hour in the morning. Like, the dude's quite successful, right? So we understand, like, we'll probably listen to him. One of the clients that I had a discussion with about helping, she's quite well known. She's like Vertically Capable Business Woman of the Year. Really well known for someone who gets up at 4 o'clock in the morning. She wanted me to go and train her at 5 o'clock in the morning, right? Which is a bit ridiculous and taking it to a slight extreme. But she did it religiously. Like, she is super successful. She's never not going to go and work out. And so the question is, like, for starters, like, what does it cost people not doing it? That's my point. Might take you an extra year. Really? Where's that? You know, where's the economy? You might not want to go and ask for help because we tend not to, because we're guys and we think, you know, we can do it ourselves, and it's, you know. Cool, that's fine. But when we look at who is successful in the world, like, everyone has other people that help them. You know, for instance, I had a real weird phobia of public speaking, and I know everyone does, but it was really quite strong. And I wrote a book, and I knew I had to go and do a speech at the book launch. And I literally, it would cause me, I couldn't even think about doing it. So I knew, listen, I knew what I knew. I just said, look, I need some help. I'm not going to be able to do this on my own. If I do, it's going to be the most horrendous place. I might end up getting up on the stage, but I also might actually be weird and start not doing it. Like, I got asked to do my Brother's Best Man speech, and literally I just couldn't even face the thought of thinking about what I was going to say. And it came to literally the day, and I hadn't done any. I know this sounds a bit weird, just the way shit is, right? And I just got drunk and basically don't remember a thing. I didn't think that was an option for my book launch. So, you know, I may have got up on stage. I may have done it. I may have made a total fool of myself. I may not have got on stage. I may have just not got. I don't know what would have happened. But I knew, like, listen, I'm going to make this as easy. And it was still hard, don't get me wrong. Like, it was still difficult, and I still felt like, you know, can I do this? But I did the shit that it took to make it happen. And I realized from that time, like, why would we not? Now, I know that's not necessarily the answer that was particularly wanted. I'll give the other answer that you could do if you want to do this stuff is that you understand what other people who are doing that are successful, and you copy them. And so if we accept that there's people that are doing things that are successful, and what is their system? So what do they do? What do they put in place? And then we'll go and have the best attempt we can at making it happen ourselves. So if you want to do anything like transform your body, for instance, first of all, you need to know exactly where you want to get to. You need to have numbers of it. You need to know, this is where I am, this is the place I want to get to. You need to put a time frame on it. When you put a time frame on it, you need to track every single thing that you do each time, each week, to see, are you getting somewhere or not? You need to understand, like, you do need to delve in, and hopefully from what we've talked about, there's an understanding of why this does make things different. We do need to understand exactly why we want to do it. Like, what is the reasons? Where are we going to get? Not some woo-woo stuff that, you know, it's actually like, I've done it. I know I've done it myself. It changes the way that you are in the gym, and it changes the way you are as a person as well, by the way. So, you know, you need to understand that bit. You need to know where your drive comes from, because probably a lot of the people I work with, they're successful in business. You know, they have that. And I'm like, why are you so driven in that? They know that, they get that, you know, they want to provide for their family. They want to earn money. They want to be that masculine type A guy. They want to have, you know, they want to have people respecting them for what they do, and they want to be charismatic. They want to be all these things, and we can take that into what we're doing where we're not so good at it, which is generally where people are. You know, they're successful one place, and then the other place has suffered maybe because of that as well. So we understand, like, why is this important to you? How is it going to help your business? How is it going to make you more money? How is it going to make you feel different around your family? Or if you are single, how is it going to make you different when you go on holiday? Because if we want to take it back to some basics, as guys, listen, we basically just want to make sure that we get laid and we don't get killed. You know, they're the biggest motivations in life intrinsically. Like, how can we stay alive so we can get laid, right? Obviously we need to eat as well, but you know, that's part of it. So we need to hunt. So most guys who are 25, like if I'm talking to them, we're not having a discussion about, you know, what they don't want to get a heart attack when they're 45. We're having a discussion about they want to get laid better. Like one of my clients, and again, I'm careful with the way that I talk to people because I understand where they are, and you don't know who he is, so we can. He's like, you know, one of the things he wanted to do is he wanted to be better in the sack, and I'm like, well, look, dude, to tell the truth, you're like this weight, can't even lift your own body weight when you try and do a press up. What do you think the person who's, you know, and this guy was wealthy, right? So he was in that situation a lot, and he started going, yeah, and I was like, do you think, like, if you can't do one press up, do you think there'd be a difference if you could do 100? And he's like, and then he got what I was saying, and he's like, yeah. I was going, do you think there'd be a difference when you can do 20? And he's like, yeah. He didn't need to be motivated to do press-ups every fucking day from that moment on. When he got to 50 press-ups, in fact, when he got to less than that, and he come in and told me some stuff which he seemed to want to share quite quickly about some things that had happened the night before. Like, I didn't need to be some genius coach to go, why do you think that was? Oh, because I'm getting stronger. Cool. Do you think you want to get stronger more? Yeah, cool. What do you reckon the way to do that is? Do more press-ups. Dude, yeah, let's do it. Like, that's not hard for a 24-year-old to want to do. Like, that dude didn't take that long to get to 100 press-ups, I can tell you that. So where we are as individuals, we need to understand that innate motivation that you talked about. And it is different for everyone. So for me, my story might not mean shit to anyone else. His story probably means a little bit more to most of us. But everyone has that innate drive. And as coaches, for instance, we only know that when we ask the right questions of our clients. So we can't tell them that. That's just not, we don't know. We don't live in their minds. So when you're aiming to self-coach, you have to know the right questions to ask yourself, because that's always the first place. You don't have to know the answers straight away, because maybe you won't. So, you know, they're your two options. Like, give it a go, try it yourself, follow that. That's sort of my process that I use with my clients, and it works with me. Or go and get some help with it.
That's fantastic. That the level of value that I've got actually out of that is tremendous, Tim. So I'm sure the guys, and even some women, if they're watching as well, have got quite a few notes down.
Oh, listen, like, the women have got lots of motivations as well. Don't worry about that. They might not be quite as simple as us, and they're a bit more. There's a bit more depth, but yeah, same thing.
That's it, and it's really, really good to hear that. We're kind of saying the same message out there: is get that intrinsic, internal motivation and that deep reason why first, and then go and take the appropriate action that you need to take. So yeah, great message on that one. That's absolutely fantastic, and all the stuff you've shared today is phenomenally valuable, I think, and we're hopefully going to get some really good response from what you shared. So thank you very, very much for your help today and support and motivation. I think you might have actually lit some fires under some people's backsides today with what you've said. I'm definitely motivated. I might go and do my second workout now.
Well, I've got my second workout later as well.
And so on that note, Tim, if people do want to contact you and connect with you, and maybe even look at getting some coaching with you, or even just have a conversation with you, where can people find you? Where would they go?
Do you know what? The best place really is Facebook. Like, I like Facebook. I like being on there. I think it's cool. I like interacting with people. Literally, the best place to do is to get me and add me on Facebook. So send me a friend request. We'll have I'll just say hey anyway. I always do, and then we can, they can see what I'm up to or whatever I'm doing, what my clients are achieving. Again, we talked earlier. If you want to see success, get some help. If not, look at what other people are doing. So I always try and share my clients' stories, but not because I want to brag about what I'm up to, but I think they're the best people to learn from. So, one of the things I do with my clients is I make them create their own 5 steps to success pillar type, the sort of market. Listen, my book has 5 pillars, right? We understand that it's nice for people to relate to that. I'm like, what are your 5 pillars? What would you do? And then they start to write it out. I'm like, okay, where can you use that? somewhere else. What do you think? Oh, yeah. So, you know, I like sharing that sort of stuff with my clients. And, you know, they're saying, you know, I've lost 20 pounds. This is how I did it. And again, it's all them, not me. So that's what I like on Facebook. I like the interaction. I'm just going to check while I'm on here. I think it's Tim Drummond. It's / one moment. I'm hoping you still got me on here. Yeah, so it's facebook.com / Tim Drummond com. So COM. That's my personal profile. Just add me on there. You know, that's the coolest way to hang out. If people do want to email me directly, you still got me, Matt?
Yeah, we're still here.
Yeah, cool. If they want to email me directly, it's Tim, and we'll go back to what you talked about, aretewhite.com, which is ARETE white.com. If there's any, you know, I do help some fit pros. I do some mentoring. You know, my sort of guys are people who are, you know, they're already successful. They're already getting results. They really, you know, they've been in the industry. They're not at the beginning. They do have that transformation stuff that they do with their clients, but maybe they just want to take it up from that next level. So they're at like the 3, 4, 5 grand mark, and they want to get to that 10K mark. You know, a lot of what I do is about how you take the results you get with clients as a trainer and become more of like a transformation coach, with a big online aspect as well, because, you know, we want some freedom with what we do. So, you know, if that's you as well, just say hey on Facebook and add me, and we, you know, we can hang out or chat or whatever.
Superb, fantastic. So just in case anybody didn't get that, it's www.facebook.com / Tim Drummond com. Is that right?
Yeah, COM, yeah.
COM, superb. Well, Tim, I think all that's left to do now is say thank you again very, very much for your time today. We spent quite a bit of time together, so I do really appreciate it. I know you're a reasonably busy man when you are working, and you do value your time probably as much as I do. So thank you very, very much for your time today, Tim.
I appreciate the invite.
Not a problem. Take care. Again, thank you for everybody else for tuning in and watching, and we'll no doubt catch you again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.